Hey guys, how is everybody? I hope everybody's doing well. Well, by now you may be sick of seeing this thing, but whatever, it is what it is. I didn't show any of the final port work on it because it was one of them deals I wasn't in the mood to video, and it was some stuff I'd never done, a cylinder I'd never ported. We showed the exhaust port, you know, that's pretty straightforward and simple, you know. It's close to the same on most every saw, unless you get into some of the vintage saws. But I done some stuff on this that was kind of experimental. I'd done a little homework on it, but you know, what you see on the internet, anyone should take with just a fine grain of salt usually, but kind of come up with my own deal, and you know, looked at it as an air pump, which is what it is, and you know, went from there how I could get the most amount of air into the crankcase of this saw, up through the transfers, into the combustion chamber, and down and out the exhaust port. And in a nutshell, that's how it works. You know, there's a lot of squish, boom, and banging going on there, but we all know that anyway. But final squish numbers on it, honestly, like I said earlier, I don't pick up a lot from glue. I see guys claim 3 thousandths plus. Again, could just be whatever glue you're using, I don't know. When we checked squish initially, it was like 20 thou and some change. Well, that's about what I ended up with in the end. I will say I did sand some off of the base of the cylinder just by hand, just to make sure I had a good clean mating surface and to get a little bit of a texture on it. And then I've done the same to the cases. I do that on any build, whether I'm using a gasket or gasket maker or silicone, whatever. We used Moto-Seal on this. It's what's readily available to me. The exhaust timing, had 20 thousandths squish, and I'll tell you, this thing, it has balls. I've not had a gauge on it. I usually wait most of the time, at least, until the rings have seated on one before we check compression, but I have done some just as soon as they were put together. We all have. You know, some pick up more, some pick up less. They always pick up once the rings are seated. But anyway, we had right around 98 on the exhaust once it was all said and done. We'll just call it 98. It does have finger ports cut in it. They are cracking like at 115. Transfers themselves 118. I did leave the bridge in the transfer ports. I know a lot of people pull that cover and cut that out, and supposedly the 2172 or the 372s don't have that in them from the get-go, and supposedly that's the only difference. I don't know, it's just what I've seen and been told. But I did unshroud the lowers. There's no room to hog anything out there, let's just face it. So I put fingers in it, and I also cut 2 bridges in it to help feed the side of the transfers that were the smallest, where the bridge runs down. A lot of people said it was put there to restrict airflow. I have no idea, but and then we did unshroud the uppers in that same area, so it's like it's got a true quad port design with bridge ports and finger ports. Really short blow down. It's a reason for the big 1-inch pipe in it. I know one of you guys said it was hideous or horrid or something. I'm no welder. I've got a $70 wire welder. I don't have the eyesight for welding. I'm not blind, so it's never gonna look good. We can make stuff hold, throw enough spot welds in to get something to hold together and not fall out or seal something up, and you know, it don't have to be pretty to work, or you know, at least here in what I do, I don't really care. As long as it works, it's all that matters as far as it goes with welding. Better grinder than welder. But it is a 1-inch pipe. There's probably a good 2 inches out of the muffler, and I'm gonna say 1.5 inches inside of the muffler. And that's it. It's an empty can. It's a Farmer Tech style muffler, European style muffler to my understanding. That's the only port on the whole muffler, and any of the saws I've done that on, it seems to work, and seems to work well. Anyway, sorry guys, I had to pause you off for a brief second. I knocked down the intake boot I was going to show you, and it kind of bounced halfway across the shop. I never found it, but whatever, it is what it is. My shop seems to eat a lot of parts and a lot of tools. It just is what it is. And it's nice and muggy here. It rained all night and all morning. Now the sun's out and it's about 100 degrees, but we got some fans on us. It's not that time of year yet where we need AC, but where were we at? We were at the transfers. I think I wrapped up everything on that. And this saw is a screamer. It will rev past 15 grand with a clean 4-stroke. It's pretty easy to tell in any of the videos that she revs kind of damn high. And with that said, we'll move to the intake side of things. First off, intake timing around 165 total open time, and some people's gonna think, well, that's too much, it'll spit back, it'll be hard to tune. Not the case here. A lot of people don't take into consideration the total volume and total size of the intake port, and you know where your blowdown's at on the saw. A saw with shorter blowdown can handle more intake timing. You have less case compression. That's maybe a topic for another day, but there's all sorts of theories up in there. I don't think either way is right or wrong. It just depends on what you're wanting and, you know, how to port the saw. But with that said, we'll get to the intake port. If you guys can see how this is made, it's got a slight slope on the roof. We'll start there. And you know, like I said, you'll have to forgive me not videoing this, and I did have footage showing the port work after, but it accidentally got deleted when I got the new camera. I had to swap memory cards from one to the other, and when it done its format, it killed all the footage off of that other card. But you guys will understand, I'm sure. What we done, I kind of over exaggerated this slope, pulled it up really steep all the way up to here, and then I cut this bridge down, blended it all in, unshrouded the Stratos ports, unshrouded the intake here. I was able to widen it a little bit. I did lower the floor a little bit, and there's like a bevel is at the entrance of the intake that goes back, and then there's like a ramp. What I done was made every bit of that completely flat and uniform from the opening all the way to the cylinder of the saw, if that makes any sense. Because the way my mind thinks is that the Stratos ports and the intake were both feeding off of the same carburetor. A lot of Stratos saws will have an extra throttle body that actually feeds fresh air into the Stratos ports, but the way this is designed, I don't have another one of these carburetors off, but the emulsion tube that comes out is actually in the very bottom center of the carburetor, and I guess their thought was when it was wide open and the choke completely open, I can show you how this intake's made. There's actually a little bridge here and a bridge in the center, but the elbow that bolts onto the back of the carb was made the same way. It had a divider down the middle that actually split the elbow to where it had 2 tracks of air coming in, really restrictive. I guess their thought is that more fresh air would come through the top of the carb at wide open throttle and get into the Stratos ports, but there's just no way around it. That fuel atomizes, it's getting some kind of fuel charge coming into the Stratos ports regardless. So what I done is I took all of that to my advantage. This elbow, I cut every bit of this stuff out. It's completely open, the one on the saw, all the way through, so it's getting all of the fuel and air charge it could ever want from the carburetor. We done the same thing with that elbow that the air filter sits on. I cut that divider all the way out, opened it up to where the saw can breathe. And guys, it pulls like a dang ported 372. One of the stronger ones I have sitting here, to be honest with you. And it's only going to get stronger as it breaks in. I have the 2171. What's funny is these the cases that was originally on this handle were 2165, which would have been a non-X-TORQ. I didn't even really notice it until I robbed the circlip out of the piston that was on them. But we have another project we're going to use those on as well. But the 2171 I have, it's 50mm old school top end. It's ported really similar. The timing numbers are really similar on it. It also has finger ports in it, but you know, it's a Farmer Tech aftermarket cylinder. Squish on it is a little looser, not a lot, but a little bit. It was around 26 or 27 thou on that saw. I will tell you, it don't have the compression of this one, just from the, you know, the grab it and pull test. But it's not far behind it. I've not ran that saw and had it in a piece of wood since back in the winter, but we're about to go on vacation. When I get back, we're going to try to get some good test logs, or, you know, fall a tree. I've got a couple I've already been looking at. Just to put some of these saws in some, you know, some decent sized wood where we can do some comparisons. In a flat out race in soft wood, you know, something 14 to 16 inches, my money would be put on this saw over top of the 2171. And I do have video of that saw cutting on the channel. I'll try to find it and put it at the end of this video where you can watch it if you want to see how that one performs. But you know, it's no slouch. It's one ripping saw. Again, you know, pretty strong 70cc saw. Honestly, about all my saws in that class seem to be really strong. Once you get so big, up around 70 cc's, you have to get in some really big, hard, dense wood to actually go to telling a big difference, you know, in the saws once they're ported. In stock form, you know, yeah, you can tell a difference, but there's no wonder that these X-TORQ, I'm not sure what Jonsered called it. Someone said maybe clean air or something. I'm not 100% sure. No wonder that the Stratos saws were, people just didn't like them when they came out. When you look at that elbow and then look at this intake boot, I mean, come on, give me a break. That is just choked down horribly. I would almost bet a man could just pull the intake tract off and do what I've done to this, and the saw pick up and run better. Just, you know, open it up to where the dang thing. Guys, you'll have to forgive me. We're at a totally different angle here, and I've got to get a longer Android cord to where I can plug these things in and charge them while we're videoing. But battery said no more, she cut off. But what I was getting at, I think that if a man, I don't believe you could even go in and just gut out the elbow that the air filter sits on, and the saw perform better. Because, you know, let's face it, you'll have to retune your carburetor, of course, and this is a limited. This carb does have limiters. You'll have to take those out. I have a video showing that. Just look up 395 XP carb limiter removal or something. Maybe I can link that one somewhere too, but it's really easy to find. But you may have to retune, but I think a lot of why the X-TORQ saws get a bad rap is they're just choked down. And this saw did have a limited coil. I had 2 of the black coils here, probably another one somewhere if I look, but we did swap that out and put a black unlimited OEM coil on it, you know, to let it rev, because the port work we done, and yes, a short blowdown saw will rev. You know, this one's proof of it. Again, there's a lot of theories up in the air there, but I do see a lot of guys that don't touch their uppers, and you just leave them power on the table, guys. Get that right angle out and practice with it, and you know, start playing with your uppers some. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up, quit running my mouth. As always, you guys stay safe, and everybody have a good day.